Good morning. It's Pam here, and I'm going to talk about disability-related issues, like I do sometimes. So, if you're disabled or you know somebody who's disabled, this might be good information for you. I just found out today, which just usually happens with disabilities, you find things out suddenly. I use Instacart, I use Instacart to bring my groceries to my home because I really can't do that anymore. And so by the way, I would like to recommend that. It's not, check how much it is. It isn't that much more when you think about going. And it's really, really a great service if you can at all afford it. And if you look at it, it really isn't that expensive. You kind of have to look around and find where they don't raise the prices of the groceries because you're using it or something like that. Anyway, I will use different grocery stores. I don't use the same one. But Walmart happens to have a sweet tea that I happen to like. And so I just had a short order to do. So I put in my usual short order to Walmart. Didn't give it much of a thought. So it was going to arrive today at about between 9 and 11. And I heard it come. Now I live in Southern California in Long Beach, and it doesn't rain very much here. But there was a rain today. That's insignificant. There was a rain. Not a downpour, but a rain. I also keep a camping chair. I have a slider that comes out of my kitchen, and there's a camp chair there. And I keep it there because, first of all, it gives me a place to sit as I leave. Exiting my house is a problem, so this is a safety issue. And I have it there. Well, remember now, it has rained a little bit. So my groceries came, the person had left. I open up my slider, and I look out, and my chair has been moved. Now, I don't blame the driver. He probably thought he was doing a good thing, but he turned the chair so it was not facing my kitchen anymore. It was facing my front door, which is totally away from me. And I have I have to step down, get over there. It's not going to be easy for me now. And remember, it's wet out there now. So I thought, oh no, why did they do that? Because now I have to step out of my, sometimes I try to do this when I have a caregiver here, but this time I was going to do it on my own. And so I do. I step out. Again, my family's going to be mad at me. And I stepped over to the chair. And then I look. Now, I always get plastic bags because they have like a handle, right? Because I have to pull it in. Paper bags don't work well when you're disabled. And I thought they just always gave me plastic. I never gave it a thought. Well, all of a sudden, and I thought, did that person just pick it? Why? Well, I reached over, and I'm not, with paper bags, you have to use both hands. Well, me using both hands and walking doesn't work either. So I tried to grab it, and the bottom of that chair had been wet from the rain. All the bottom of the bags gave way. So I picked up the first one, and all my groceries went onto the patio floor. I went, oh my God. So then what I did is I tried to drag the chair back around closer, and then I thought, well, I'm going to have to take this stuff out of my bag individually into my house, which is going to be me turning and going in and out of that door, which is not a safe thing for me to do. Then I had to bend over and pick up some of the groceries that fell. Thank God they were nothing that would break. And I did get them up. So then I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not going to give this driver 1 star because I have a feeling the driver doesn't understand this. So I put my groceries away, and I went back in, and they hadn't shut off the driver's notes yet. Sometimes they shut them off, but it was still open. So I said, hi, are you still there? And he said, yeah. And I said, I'm not going to ding you on any stars. I won't do that, but I don't think you understood. And I said, number 1, why did you move my chair? Maybe in the future, you shouldn't move anybody's furniture when you come on their property, because when they're disabled, sometimes it's there for a really, really important reason. And mine was. It's like I put a cane different places in my house. You don't need to move them. If there's a cane in an unusual place in my house, leave it alone because I have it there if I suddenly need it, if I don't have my walker. So I have things strategically placed for my disability. So, but I said, I don't know why. And I said, and why did you give me paper? Everything fell. It's terrible. And he said, that's not my decision. He said, Walmart made a decision to go paper. Probably for the environment. I mean, I'm sure there's all these great reasons. But when we make these decisions, we sometimes affect the disability community. Because as much as we would like to be environmentally friendly, sometimes I just can't. I just can't. It's just the way things are now for me. I need a handle. And a handle on grocery bag paper is sometimes okay, as long as it isn't too heavy. But it can't be wet. But if it's wet and I have plastic bags, nothing's going to happen to my groceries. So now I try to do, a customer thing to let Walmart know, but that's not going to work. First of all, it's artificial intelligence, and they're not going to care that you're telling them about this problem. And certainly they don't have a disability hotline. So they're not going to stop a policy that they made for the whole United States just because little old disability me presents it to them. But those of you who are disabled and you want to tell them when you're in the store, that would be nice. I would appreciate it. Because maybe if enough people tell them, they'll notice that, when you make a decision, do you think about the disability community? You really need to. We have a lot of YouTubers out there that talk about disabilities and talk about being aware of that. And I find this, you guys look at my channel here, I've talked about when I take my wheelchair, all the things that happen to me, almost every single time I travel. Well, now this was just a different thing that I wanted to talk to you about. The simple as getting my groceries delivered in a paper bag. Even if it wasn't a rainy day, how do I lift it? If they had put it right by my door in that chair, I could have somehow pulled it over. I thought that it was going to be, with handles. So now I have two choices. I either don't use Walmart anymore, which is not the end of the world, because, I can use my local, or I have to wait and only do it on the days that I have someone here in my home that's helping me. In other words, the days that I have somebody in here, I can ask them to take my groceries and bring them in, which I usually do. I usually order my groceries on Monday or Friday because I do have someone here. But today I thought, I feel like I can do this. I'm not totally disabled. There's things I can do. And it fell apart. I tried and it still fell apart. So anyway, guys, just to let you know, there's a little Walmart change. And if you're disabled, be aware of the difference in the paper bags and the plastic bags as far as it is for you gripping. I'm not even talking about rain. We all know what that would be about. One more thought before I go. I was reading an article about using the shopping apps that you can where they deliver the groceries to your home. I use something called Instacart, but around you it may be something else. And a lot of people think, oh, that's just too expensive for me, or you really enjoy going to the grocery store. But this was a very interesting take. I don't know if it was a YouTuber who did it, but I want to share it with you. If you're a person who does a lot of impulse buying when you go to stores, you might find using Instacart to do your grocery shopping actually a money saver. Because they may be shopping for you for an hour, and maybe it's a $3 charge, and then you have you pay a tip to the driver, which could be $3 or whatever it is. When you think about the time they spent grocery shopping, that's a savings. But even if you don't look at that, I don't impulse shop because I can't. I'm telling you, every time I review that order before I send it in, I take 2 or 3 things off of it. Either I already have it because I checked while I was walking through my kitchen, or I just realized I don't really need that. Or not today, I can get it another day. Or last time I let it go to spoil, so I shouldn't try it again. Anything like that, I take it off. And sometimes it's $10, $12. Well, that's more than going to make up for anything I pay for them to deliver it to me. So you might find using these shopping services as a way to stop you from impulse buying. And another reason I have used Walmart. Now, I know Walmart can be controversial. Some people don't want to use them, and I totally understand. There's a lot of things I don't want to use, but once I became disabled, things had to change for me. And so people don't want to use Target anymore for all these political reasons. But I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the disability community and what we sometimes have to do. So I'm not going to talk about Walmart. If you don't want to use them, that's fine. But the combination for me, I decided when I was doing Instacart and using Walmart, was that in conjunction with my grocery order, I could order thumbtacks, I could order masking tape, I could order ballpoint pens, I could order the other things that Walmart has, a t-shirt, anything like that I needed that's not part of a grocery order, but because that store has everything, I can include it all. Or I use a lot of Amazon. I have to. I can't shop anymore. And sometimes I'll say, well, wait a minute, I'm not going to use Amazon today. I'm going to use Walmart. And I'm going to get, and I guess you could use Target too. I'm going to use Walmart for, I need to get a pair of shoes or whatever I'm going to get. And then I'm just going to add a few grocery items because I really can't Instacart one item. That doesn't make any sense. But if I'm going to be buying anything from a big box store or whatever we call them, I could add, it happens to have groceries. So that's a nice combination you might want to think of. I guess that's hint of the day, right? The disability hint of the day. If you're an impulse buyer, you might want to think about that. And just the idea that you can combine, if you really want to have a grocery order, but you're ordering a hardware, clothing, some item, order it from a Target or Walmart, and then you can add a few food items with it, and that way you don't have to go running out to the store. That saves you money and gas. Now, I just can't run out to the store. Those days for me are over. And for me, it's the most wonderful thing in the world. After COVID, when they did all this, I started using this in COVID, and then I continued because my disability began to accelerate a little during that time. And so I found that I need these services. It allows me to stay in place, age in place in my home, because I can get these things delivered to me. So this is just another hint I wanted to give you. Have a nice day, and I hope this was helpful. Bye, guys.